Hello and welcome to episode 2 of this new interview series. This show is a conversation with Bobak Champion, and we'll be discussing his amazing show, I'm Muslamic Don't Panik, which is about to go on tour again. I saw it on tour last year and the show absolutely blew me away because Bobak is a multi-talented performer. He can beatbox, he can breakdance, he can play saxophone, he's a clown. The show absolutely blew me away and I had so many questions for him. So in this episode, we are going to be discussing this amazing show he's created, how it was born and how it was developed. We'll be talking about practices that you can use to reignite your creativity after a hard time and so much more. Let's go. Hello, Bobak, and welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having
me. There's so many things that I want to ask you about, but to give people some context, I saw Bobak's show at the end of last year. I think it was October, November time, and I was just completely blown away on so many levels. One, because all the different talents you have and how you've woven them so beautifully into the show, and two, the very, very strong message of the show, which I didn't quite realize what, didn't expect to be in tears at the end. It really did have a big impact on me. And I just want to start with really just talking about this show, and I want to know how it was born, how it came to be, and like what's been your journey to develop all the characters and to develop the show.
Great, straight in there. First of all, I just wanted to say I know that you hold spaces that are just for women, and I think that's fantastic thing. So I'm very honoured to just be on the radar and be here chatting to you this evening. And thanks for coming and watching the show as well. This means a lot to hear that. But yeah, okay. So the journey or the motivation, I think, is important and interesting, and yeah, it takes. It's a lot of work, not just, the artistic stuff that's really hard work. I really enjoy getting my teeth stuck into, but the admin side and the organisation side, as you know, is a long slog. So just having that motivation in mind. But I guess it was probably just, I love travel. My mum was born in Iran, so I've always had we had the pleasure over the years of being able to go and visit family in Iran. And I think those trips have been really, shaped who I am and been really informative and really lovely. And I think there's been times where there's been a gap in those trips and I was a bit maybe more hesitant or wasn't sure, after not going to the Middle East for a few years, whether I'd get, what I think, especially as a teenager, and maybe receiving different messages. And I just remember going as a slightly older teenager thinking, with a bit of an attitude maybe, and just it really seeping in, and just the love and warmth that I was receiving you could fight it for a while, that kind of oh no, I'm just being dragged here and I don't really want to go. I want to be with my mates, I don't know, doing what back home in Bristol or in the UK. But actually after a while you just have to let it in, and you're having a good time, and not only from family but just receiving that warmth from people that I was meeting in the street or going on walks, and just continually to come across just very loving people, just genuinely wanting to have a good time, genuinely curious in what you're up to and what you think. And I think being surrounded by that enough was just really important, really shaped who I was. So anyone that gets a chance to do those kind of trips or go somewhere a bit unusual or trace your heritage in that way, I think it's I would definitely, if you're thinking of doing something like that, I would say definitely go out and do it. And so that said, I think then receiving messages in the media where growing up in the 80s in Bristol, there was a bit of kind of negative, it was the tail end of the BNP and whatnot. And I think I felt that, and we felt that in our neighbourhood to a certain extent, but then that had kind of calmed down, it felt like, over the years. And then I'd gone off to uni, surrounded myself with some great artists, some really good dancers, kind of created this bubble of artists that I was really getting on with well. And then kind of 9/11 happened, and then Donald Trump came in, and these kind of strange messages about a country and the people that I really love and enjoy spending time with was just so jarring, really. And it's just hold on, and you go through, at first the initial thing is just to be fed up or depressed or angry, but then it's actually I think I owe it to myself, my community, all the teachers that I've had showing me great dance moves, or music teachers. I've got these skills now that I've mainly been utilizing for other people's projects, which is great. and I've been on an amazing journey with that. But I just felt like actually now maybe I do have something to say. Maybe I would like to use some of these skills to kind of channel and create a show and see if I can like just show that like anywhere else, Iran is a you know, like the UK, it's got its good and bad. It's like a more nuanced than the media would have us like say sometimes. So yeah, just trying to create that humanizing story, and then hopefully it's harder for people to be so one-sided about things.
But then
Yeah.
and then like the actual practical thing though, because you know you've had all this influence and this story of, you know, what you just explained, but then was there just a moment where you're like, right, I'm going to put this in a show, and you just applied for funding, or you had, you know, planned how you were going to do it? How was like what was the first iteration or the first creation of the show?
Yeah, that's a good question. And even to get to knowing that I wasn't, there's a lot of being unsure and trying things. And I think even before I knew I wanted a show, I knew I wanted to do something. And I wasn't even quite sure it was going to be a show. I was like, do I try and curate something where I looked at other artists and I bring in, could I like hire a theatre and bringing other writers, established writers, or people who I think are doing the kind of thing that I want to see, or that I feel like needs to be out in the world, and get them to like and create something in that way. But then I watched a few, I like going to see shows. I'd watched a few other people who are kind of in my circle as well. I think that really helps, that rather than, you know, go and see a celebrity or a band or someone really famous, but to see people that kind of on my periphery to step up and like tell a story on stage and do a theatre show. I was like, actually, so anyone that's come across Akeem Buck, for instance, or there's a beatboxer, there's an artist called Testament, he's a playwright, he's a dad as well, and seeing their shows and people in my circle step up and do those shows and say something and have an important message and really like hone in on their craft. I thought actually it's time to, people are going to respect that if I'm willing to actually get up and do it myself in front of an audience. I think like, you know, hopefully that says something, and it has, and people, and like doors have opened. So then it was deciding that I definitely, you know, out of all the 20 things you can choose to do, that I wanted to do that was like making that decision happen. Then, you know, having it from an idea into your head to telling a few people like, hey, this is my idea, I want to make a show in reaction to the Trump Muslim ban, or in, you know, in using some of my experiences of like what I've experienced in the Middle East and Iran, and just kind of letting that come out to a few people that I really respect and seeing what they say and hearing their like positive reaction, like, yeah, go for it, Bobak. So James Fogarty, one of them, Foggy, is a very well established dancer on the scene, and he sounded really keen. He was like, look, I'll support you, should try and get funding, but if you don't, you know, still go for it. And another friend of mine who's a playwright, Lizzie Patch, again, just having their kind of like blessing to say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, was really helpful. And then it's just like chip away from there. And yeah, I'd been part of other people's projects who'd gone to the Arts Council England and applied for funding. So then that was on my radar, and started to go towards there to try and make it happen, because I'm trying to pay my bills off this stuff as well, you know, as well as being fun and whatnot. It's like, okay, trying to be professional about it.
Yeah, I just want to like pull out two bits of wisdom there, because it's so important when you have a new dream that's like a precious little baby, that you just don't tell it to everyone, that you just tell it to a few people. So that was so cool you did that. And the other thing I think is really interesting, and I've definitely experienced this as an artist, you know, things can really get you down. Like, you know, you're saying all these things really got you down, but then you use that as like a force for good. And I've found, like, devoting myself to the arts, there have been times, like just this winter gone, I found a bit ground down. I think being a parent as well, I just like sort of lost my creative vision. And have you, how do you, like, would you have any tips for artists who, like, you know, sometimes you just go those phases, don't you, where you're just like a downward pull, you get a lot of no's, and it's just really hard. What sort of helped you out of that? Or have you got a tip for someone who's
I think it's really, that's a really great point, and I think it's really good to acknowledge that, because that is absolutely the reality. And I think that is a good thing to bear in mind. What are those things that do grind you or get on your back? Like, it's not as easy as just immediately having that reaction, but it is like, can that potentially be material somehow? And I look at some of the politicians that I dislike or whatever, and I do think some of what's coming out of their mouth, can you just like, you know, how can that be utilised in material in some way, or how can we switch that up? And I do think you have to allow yourself to have all the feelings first before you can do anything. But also, you know, these actions, okay, you might come and see me do a show, but it doesn't start at that. It could start, you know, just much smaller in little everyday ways. I'm just trying to think what might be a good example. Um, yeah, whether that's with, you know, a bit of a movement or a chapter of book or free writing, whatever it is, to chip away at it. Mm. And and from my perspective, when you do start to, it does relieve the pressure of it. It does definitely help. So I will say that anyone that's got that in their mind, like, oh, I would like to make a statement about this or write a poem about this, whatever. If you can, you know, start putting pen to paper, it would like almost certainly will, you know, feel useful or helpful or some way. And then community is the other good thing as well, isn't it? If you can find other artists and get out and you know, whether anyone's going to listen if you scream and shout about these things or talk about these things or start a conversation, you know, it's hard to say exactly, but it is really good just getting on with it and getting going, getting that starting. But I just think it's the classic. The blank canvas is just always so hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know if
definitely
you
a big
relate to
one.
that, but what, you know,
I'm a big one for free writing. I think that really
yeah,
helps. And I also think, you know, when we met, I was like really big in my phone addiction bubble,
yeah,
which I still
yeah,
deeply
of
care
course.
about. And I really enjoyed my time away because if you're in the because of the phase I was in, which was in like a slightly I don't know what I'm doing next phase. If you look at what everyone else is doing, it can
Mm,
actually just make you feel really
mm,
bad because you think
mm,
I don't know what I'm doing. So that's another
mm,
thing I would just think for people. If you're feeling
yeah.
like you've got no vision, just stop looking at other people's visions and go
Mm.
for a walk in
Good.
nature
Yeah,
or write your thoughts down or write
yeah,
about some happy things you've done
yeah,
because there's you know it's really crazy how when you get pulled off the path
yeah,
how very quickly how far off the path you can go in a very
yeah,
short time.
yeah. No, I think that's really good, and it's like exactly for you might get inspiration from someone else, but actually, like you said, walk in nature. It can come from anywhere, and that's going to channel what you then want to put out or do. It's like yeah, so I think it could be nature, art, a gallery, a museum. You know, these things can come from these inspirations can come from anywhere. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be online at another artist. It can even as an artist, it can come just from absolutely anywhere. But I just wonder, is it you know, going back to the phone thing? I think it's a really interesting conversation. I just wondered what you thought of this, Laura. You know, I was, as you're aware, I've just moved house and I haven't brought the speakers. I had those. I don't want to set anyone off devices off, but it's voice-enabled speakers that I had in my old house that I really liked. And like the one thing is like some people are just bolt. My wife's like, oh, I've got people listen. You know, the idea of something listening in the background is off-putting, and I totally get that. But at the same time, for me to be able to play music, I can just say, hey, I'm not going to say, I'll say Alex,
But
but I'm not the actual one because I don't want to set people's devices off. I can say, hey, Alex, play this, right? And it means that on that day that I can't be asked to get out of bed or I'm just not feeling it, I'm just feeling lazy, whatever, I can just say, hey, put some music on. And from the music being on, without having to go into my device and scroll through what I'm going to listen, you know, I just have to say those words. I've got a really nice sound system then going, and suddenly from there, my day will start to, you know, lift immediately. But then my wife's like, you know, so you know, who's right on that one, or like, or what's the, you know, where's the balance in these things? I just thought it was an interesting
I'm not
moment.
anti those devices, but my first experience was so bad it put me off ever getting it. So
Mm,
basically, my brother got one. We'll call the device Emma, just like you're
yeah,
saying, so it
yeah,
doesn't set
yeah,
off anyone's advice. And my brother was like, "Look, this cool advice. You just
yeah,
say Emma, and she does." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then all the kids and teenagers cottoned on that they could shout that
yeah,
name, and we were at a party and the song changed every
yeah,
30 seconds,
yeah,
and and all I just found it was really annoying. I'm
yeah.
sure in your home it's really nice, and I do voice enable my phone when I'm driving, and
Mm,
we
mm,
rely on that to like put
mm.
tunes on because otherwise we wouldn't. But yeah, I don't know how much of this I haven't really my mind hasn't gone
Yeah,
down
it's
that
an
one. It's probably a
interesting.
good thing if I haven't
It's an
gone
interesting
down that
balance, you
worm's
know.
hole.
I like, for me, ultimately, as long as the audio sound's got to be like high quality, then I'm like quite happy.
Yeah. Just before you, as a kind of another resource that resources us as artists, you talked about community, and I've seen you post a few times, and I think you discussed with me about the Parents in Performing Arts organisation. I'd love to hear a bit more about that and how you've worked with them or how that supported you, and then any current community. I know you're also involved in the breakdancing community, and just curious to know what other communities support you now.
What's community support me? Yeah, I mean that's
I mean,
a
emotionally
good
and
question.
all of it as well, not just
Yeah,
in all levels.
yeah, no, that's a really good question, and there was lots in there. I just in my brain at the moment. You say the breaking community as well, with the show. It's largely a solo show, autobiographical, but there's an important role for guest dancers, and um, they in the show it's two Iranian Muslim b-boys in Tehran in Iran, and it's unlikely to be able to like cast that accurately in this country very easily. But having said that, one of my friends and peers was like, hey Bobak, you should really think about like who you're, rather than just use any old one or people I've been working with recently, really think about like what's the best use of spotlighting those other dancers that join you on stage, which I think was really good. And so I've been thinking about that more, and it's been really cool because there are some, there's some really great dancers who can do a bit of breaking, let's say, who've dipped their toe, but then there's some people that really live the hip hop culture, that have been, studying for years, don't dibble dabble in any acting, seeing anything else. They're just like, and yeah, and there's a lot of people that get forgotten about and marginalized as well. So it's been to like, and some of these people, just slightly unusual, or you have to go through different channels to reach them. They might not answer me, but like if I know someone that we've got a mutual friend, that might contact people and then say, hey, this guy's cool, like you should think about, like they just won't pick up if I, so there's some extra hurdles. But then to have been part of the hip hop and breaking community, and then to see everyone come through and actually all in all come through and support, and like, yeah, again, some people might have a bit of attitude here and there, but actually for almost everyone to see the message I'm putting out, to get behind the show, has been really cool. And to hear about their journeys, often people that I won't meet until the afternoon of the show in the theatre. So these guys are rocking up, and we're connecting for the first time, and we're improvising on stage, and yeah. So that the breaking community is just like, yeah, it's really cool. And because there's less barriers to that community as well, and it's much more accessible, you're just getting a much wider variety of people that are willing to like, or that end up stepping foot, because yeah, you don't have to, it's not the same as going to a ballet school or anything like that, in the same way I guess that I learned, from taping Top of the Pops and starting off like, in a pretty like humble setting. A lot of other people do as well. So that's been really interesting. And yeah, Pippa, Parents in Performing Arts as well. I think that's really great. They've recognised that, it's such a shame if loads of the arts is really hard. So if loads of parents just suddenly drop off, then that's just like bad news for everyone. So it's just about what's acceptable with young people in the space as well, and trying to do things like being able to ask for truncated rehearsals, for instance, so to make it more normal that we can should be able to do a school drop off and then make hours work, so that you can still, you don't have to just cram everything into 2 weeks or whatever, so you can start to draw things out. So I think, yeah, and just opening that up, and making that normal in theatres, making sure the spaces are suitable. It's really nice in Leeds, from where I've just moved as well. It's a really nice play space for young people as well. So it means that I can potentially open my laptop there and then know that they're she's safe having a play in the corner there. So Pippa have been great, and just hearing inspiration for other parents and carers that have still managed to produce art. And to be, the parents, that's one thing. Yeah, there's also people we forget. You don't realise there's people caring for people with some really, severe. It's a lot of work having to put in at home just to keep their, loved ones ticking over, really. And for them to hear about them and their art as well is really amazing. It makes you think, yeah, okay, wow, what's my excuse?
Yeah.
But people are good. And then, yeah.
Switching up a bit, 'cause there's something else I really want to talk about. I just loved your clown character so much, because that's the opening to the show.
Yeah.
I actually just thought that was going to be the whole show, and I was like, I could just literally just watch a whole show of this clown character.
Yeah, I
is so
forget
great.
that. No, yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. So I call him the Persian. And for listeners, that haven't met that character, he just likes he's quite a touchy-feely guy, I should say, which is a bit of a cliche, but it's very, very fun. And to be honest, loads of people have pointed that out. They're like, Bob, whatever you produce next, make sure that character or the essence of that character is there. And it is quite freeing and it is quite fun. And I think just in this time, like we just need a bit of joy and a bit of fun, and it's a really good way to approach work. And it's quite scary as well because in dance, if you've got set choreography, you can practice things, you can work to the counter, you can work to the music. But this character is absolutely, as you've experienced, the complete opposite of that. So it's like stepping out on stage, but literally not knowing where this thing is going to go, and not hiding behind all the dance moves. I think a lot of other dancers might identify for this. I was just saying to someone, about getting a headshot. Like for instance, I struggle to get a picture of my head. If I'm able to throw shapes or do a handstand, I'll let people take pictures all day, but it's to stand there. And it's that same feeling with the clowning. It's like there's a phrase saying "go wrong strong." Just give yourself permission to fail. But it is a unique feeling going out into the audience without quite knowing what is going to be the result. But there's a little behind the scenes thing. I worked with hats off to a lady called Holly Stoppit or Holly Stoddard, and I feel like you should, and maybe some of your listeners are interested. She's a really great facilitator. She describes herself as a clown coach. So once I'd understood that what I was doing was clowning, which took a while to figure that out anyway, someone or I came across their work, and so I did do a little bit of training just to help give me confidence and back up what I was doing. But yeah, it's a good fun character, and I think I recommend anyone that gets a chance to jump into the clowning world. Yeah.
I had a really cool drama teacher at school, and he did a clowning workshop with us. This experience of just this sort of improvised clown. And I loved it so much, and I keep thinking, I want to get into clowning. I just love it, like looking at what's going on. I've looked at Holly Stoppit's website like a million times, thinking, oh, this is cool. And there was a musician I came across who writes it's like meditation music, really, just really chilled out meditation music that I just happen to love. And I googled him, and he is I'm annoyed I can't remember the name now. He'll come back to me later. I'll put a link in the show notes. And he is a sacred clown as well. He practices the art of sacred clowning. And I've heard a lot about this. And I've heard a lot about people using clowning as a form of therapy.
Yeah.
And I wondered how the experience was for you when you step into your clown, how that helps you work with your own fear or work with your personality or your spiritual life. What's your experience been like?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think you're right. There are so many different approaches, and certainly I think with Holly that I've learned things from, she definitely digs into that therapeutic aspect as well. And I feel because some people have block and she'll be able to vocalize it better than this. But from my understanding as well, you can have what's stopping yourself, what's stopping all of us. Kids have it really well. What's stopping us? If you can identify anything that's blocking you from playing and exploring in that way, it can be really useful because then it can really open things up. And I don't know, it's an interesting one for me. I've definitely attached something I hold a brush as well when I do that character, and it's just there's something about when I take that object and it's just like a little moment of hypnosis, I guess, which then allows me to frees me up in some way. And another little tip, just going back a step as well to the clown you see in the show, and I just had a bit of advice as well through Holly was to if you can go into although I don't know what's going to happen, I try and sometimes go up into the gods in the theatre that I'm in and just have a look at the audience and see, okay, is there anything what vibe am I getting from people? I might look at you and go, okay, she's wearing red and she's quite bubbly and bright. Maybe she's up for it, but sometimes I'm actually, I'm not going to go for the person that's peacocking. Who's the least up for it person? And just really see if I can let's just see if we can flip this. So that's something interesting that happens. I'm trying to look through a peephole or just try and give myself a little heads up before I go out. But yeah, what was the second part of that again? So the therapeutic aspect, and also in terms of
so this idea of the sacred clown, and that it can be a form of therapy for yourself, or that it can be a spiritual experience, I guess, maybe to experience another side of yourself, or to experience freedom in that way.
That sounds like something I need to even dig into or learn more about myself. But definitely, yeah, like through this show, it's been really interesting because it is you can allow yourself to find different parts of yourself. Yeah, it's definitely not that character's not how I go about my everyday life or necessarily, but I think it's like maybe I should and bring those two things together. Well, maybe I do. I just don't realize it. Um, but yeah, certainly it's a good place to explore some of those things, and maybe there's like, it makes me want to go and do more, if that whole circle of clowning, maybe I probably, and because I've got an end, like with what I've been doing, I have had an end result in mind. The clowning came via that show, but it would be really nice to like go into it with a more holistic, like, or like, well, okay, what else or what other areas, facets of my life can going to be beneficial for, because for the show, like you say, it's been magic, so
Yeah.
why not put that dust on other parts of my life? And
Yeah.
I think it's a really good, interesting point.
And when you're in between shows, how do you maintain your creative practice in any way? And then how do you maintain a spiritual or self-reflective practice? And do you see any links between them, or how do you experience
Hmm.
your practice?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay, cool. There's a few like different like nuggets to that question.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I have actually, interestingly, I did do a project where we were um I brought together a number of, because I felt like I was a bit like, talking about community, a bit lonely, especially in the aspect of like the what I was looking at with my work and things. And I realized there were other people around, like dotted around the place. So I brought like specifically some other breakdancers or breakers from the UK scene who have got like, a Muslim background or heritage, either practicing or whatnot. And we came together in a room, and like it was really interesting to see like what we agreed, what we disagreed. But we also like dance to different music as well. And for some people, like music is just like a distraction. They don't really even want to like have too much music or keep it very simple, because it can be a distraction to their faith. And or then there's like nasheed, there's more traditional music that and or no music. And we like, and at the end of that week, we just like set some simple choreography and did a range of things where we were dancing to nothing, dancing to nasheed, dancing to like pop music, dancing to just like very simple beats. And it was really interesting to explore. It was magic, and hearing everyone's views. And I felt like for me, it's not compared to like there's some really interesting in Sufism, in parts of Turkey, all the whirling dervish communities where dance is like very much attached to their um, faith and religion, how they practice. So I don't think it's that for me. Um, but then at the same time, I feel like you can't separate completely as well. So I don't know. Again, something that it's really interesting and I'm exploring. Um, so that's one point. Run the question by me again, because there's a couple of things in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, so it was about, because it was, and this is, again, basically the reason I'm doing these interviews is just basically for personal life advice.
Yeah.
It's about, because again, I mentioned I sort of like drifted off the path, and as soon as I decided, right, I'm going to practice my guitar for 10 minutes every day, that
Mm,
was a huge shift in
mm,
the right direction.
mm.
Just that like very small commitment, when you're not in the middle of something. So when
Yeah,
you're in the
yeah,
middle of a
yeah,
show, you're in the
yeah.
middle of the
What
show,
do
the
you do?
show carries you.
Yeah,
But when you're like, so you
yeah,
haven't even got the funding for the next show,
yeah,
but you like
yeah,
want to
yeah.
keep it alive.
Exactly. Yeah,
I think you said you do quite a lot of physical training. I think you said you took your daughter sometimes. I
yeah.
just wondered like about do you have like every week that you
I'm
make
just
sure
trying to
you
think
do this
what.
amount of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dancing?
No, this is really great, and I don't necessarily have the answers. And yeah, sometimes when you have the goal, like a really clear goal, it's just like so for now. Oh yeah, I've got my saxophone in this room. I know I'm gearing up to a show, so I'm like, right, my fitness needs to be at a certain place. But then when it's not, yeah, how do you go about there? And I just think like I'm really grateful to be, again, coming back to hip hop, compared to like the contemporary dance training or ballet that bits I've done was really cool, but they're very much there with the register. If you're not there, you're going to get in trouble, or whatever. So someone's kind of like taking that for you, that aspect of showing up every day. But in hip hop and breaking, it's really good to see like people people again with a lot of people with not a lot as well, just like chipping away at it, in some really unglamorous places, in their basements, in school halls, and wherever it is. So I think for me, keeping a playlist, like what music am I excited by at the moment? That's a good one. Or who's listening to what and chatting to. So I've got a couple of friends that I also know like are into their, you know, I'm not a DJ, but I've got like friends that are into the same types of music as well. So I hope like they nudge me about certain albums, and like my brother is good at digging for things as well. So I think like, so for someone that enjoys music, that's always good. Um, I don't know. I tried one of these challenge. There's an online challenge, 75 hard, that some friends do, and I tried
What's
my
it
own
called?
version of that.
75?
75 hard, and it
I've
involves,
never heard it. Tell me
yeah,
about it.
it's like I don't, you know, and I don't know if I'm a typical internet challenge type of guy, but and it involves two 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside, and then you drink a whole load of water, and you should read. I think it's like read a chapter a day or something. And there's something around eating or nutrition again. Like for me, it's just lay off the biscuits. I just kept it simple. I don't want to do anything too crazy. Um, but yeah, what a creative. I think, yeah, and I think where I don't have shows or there's like less on the horizon work-wise, those are the really good like opportunities for some kind of development as well. So I'm like really interested in taking either taking classes or courses, but also like just looking through the programs of events and things like for local theatres. And for me, even though I'm a theatre and dance artist, it could be a really good gig. That could be like get my inspiration and make me want to practice. So yeah, just looking around for inspiration. But I think it's really, yeah, it's a good question. And also, I don't think it has to be that, you know, I'm going to be, you know, reach a point where I don't necessarily want to dance as a performer as much. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, then what? Like, maybe then I need to be thinking about the writing more. And so I think it's good to start like doing bits of writing now, and then maybe I could push that. But I don't know. In a way, I'm quite blessed because the moving thing, like, I just know it's really good for my health and physical, mental well-being or whatever. So I think like it doesn't have to be every single day, but every few days I just need to keep moving in some way.
And do you have a space you can dance in your house, or do you go to the gym or something?
So again, just moved house, and I'm really excited. There's like what should have been like a garage or whatever, or carport, and I'm just like, no, the car can just exist outside of that space, fine. Like the car doesn't need protecting for anything, and it is like I think again, when the weather comes and spring comes, it's going to be like a really, really nice space. So I'm there, and even in the winter, you just have to like maybe do a bit less and try and warm up and cool down properly. So yeah, that's really exciting, and I want to like bring other people into that space as well. I'm like hoping to slowly do some like one-to-one stuff there. So that's really good. Yeah, and I'm in the playroom right now, and my daughter and I have got a really good habit going of like just running around and being a bit wild in here, like fighting and dancing and things. So, and usually one of us is up for it. So we did a lot of that today. So yeah, in our house, yeah, really good. It's like nothing special. It's just like basically some floor, you know, a corner of the house that doesn't have too much furniture or stuff in it. So, yeah, and I can think about other people that have done the same, that are quite good movers that I respect, that just like try and have one area that's just that's not over furnished basically.
When I used to live in London, I lived in a Victorian primary school. We did this kind of like legal squatting thing, and can you imagine, I just had like these high ceilings and this huge school hall just to go, and because it's so nice as a dancer, isn't it, just to have like space as well to move around. Yeah. But I also think that shouldn't be an excuse.
No,
because you know you can do
exactly.
We live in a small flat, and I still make time to move. Yeah. I have to push things out of the way, or just do it a bit different. Exactly. You've got to do it for your. Yeah. This is another thing. I'm just picking that up. I like dropped movement. Like, how crazy could I just not? Yeah. I've always been walking, but I just dropped like anything else, and that's just such another simple thing. Just dancing, yoga, fitness. It literally just you're just like
exactly. No, I think you're right, and I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the blank canvas or the blank sheet as well. It's just like once you do that first bit of movement, you'll realize, oh yeah, I actually love this, and there's like endless possibilities. I think whether it's writing or dancing, whatever it is, that like going from zero to just going to something is like the hardest bit in some ways.
How do you find touring? What's the experience like for you? Do you enjoy it? Do you find it hard? What's the pros? What's the cons?
I think that's a really good question. And like, what do I want the future of touring to look like as well? And as like my peer group or people around a similar age are having families as well, what do I want them, or as I'm casting other dancers into things? you know, how do I want to for them to tour? I mean, one thing is the last bit of touring I did, the other I was sharing the driving, and so that which is like it might sound obvious, but like I was like, okay, that is much better. So you know, that's been really good. What else about touring? Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a love hate thing. Like it's really really nice to like travel with your art. Like, and I've always loved traveling and things. At the same time, when you just can't get in, like just being in another Airbnb and you like trying to figure out where you're parking or how you're getting in and things like that, or I don't know, like the different unknowns of it. And most recently, the touring has been through an organisation called Rural Touring Dance Initiative, RTDI. And so rather than going into your big cities, we've been rocking up at village halls and libraries and transforming spaces, which has been really cool. Yeah, and like taking our own sound, visuals, lighting, and everything. So they're like just like transforming spaces. It is really exciting. It's like, yeah, it takes a lot of work, and I'm hands on doing the stuff yourself. I'm not just sitting back and then the team comes in and does it. You know, it's like I am the team, with support, and yeah, it's really exciting to transform spaces that don't see that usually happening in, and try and like be ambitious with it as well. Like it'd be easy to go, I'll just take the simplest, easiest, cheapest option, but go actually, where do we want to like roll the carpet out and try and create something that's beautiful and high quality still. And yeah, it's really cool. I want to go, and actually as well, the other thing I'll say is like there's a lot of things, you know, the country's going a bit slower, but no, you go like, well, I've seen some lovely independent bookshops, really nice independent coffee shops, new ones that have been opening, you know, in the last, you know, I've spoken to trying to hit those independent businesses and like trying to make time to see a bit of something on the way. You know, I've seen waterfalls, I've seen the Cambridge Eco Mosque when I was down there, never been to Cambridge before. What else? As I say, yeah, spoke to people that are opening small businesses and things like cafes, and yeah, in fact, we're in Southborough, we were in the cafe across the road from the venue, and just like chatting to different people. So I think that experience is great and really hopeful. And someone had said to me, Bobak, you sound like you've fallen in love with the UK again. And I was like, actually, that's like, you know, Anglesey. I don't know if you've ever been to Anglesey. Went to Anglesey recently, which I didn't even know was like its own island. It's where it like right up in the top corner of Wales, and it's where the ferries go to Dublin. It's just like, yeah, really, I don't know, there was something magical about that part of Wales. Right down into the depths of Cornwall recently as well. Managed in Oxford to go up one of the church towers and like see out everywhere. So no, it's been really nice. What do I I'm just trying to think. I don't want to glamorize it too much. What are there any like major dislikes? I don't know, just when like when the big, like when you had a long day, done a long show, you're absolutely knackered. If like for whatever reason like I don't know, getting in and out of apartments, things like that, if it gets overly complicated or that's not working or whatever, you just don't want that like after a really hard long slog somewhere, but it's all right. And then I don't know. Okay, I guess the last thing is like, and it'll be interesting to see this year now with the baby. I feel like the first night away, and yeah, I remember this from when touring from when my other daughter was little as well. The first night away is like, oh, magic, like really nice sleep. And the second night's like a bit like that. And then after the third or fourth, you're like, actually, I'm not in the right place now. I should be at home with my family. Do you know what I mean? It just there's that fine balance of like, actually, you know, responsibility, life, da, 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 da. But I'll take that first night's sleep, like very.
Going into like, I'm going to go slightly edgy here, right? Because I feel like your show, it's against ignorance, you know, like it's a message against ignorance. And then like while I was sat here before, I was talking like, what's the opposite of ignorance? I guess it's knowledge and it's wisdom. I don't know if you got another word for what would be the opposite. I was like thinking, I'll look up on thesaurus before I call you,
Yeah, I
and
don't
I
know.
forgot.
Connection or community maybe as well, because just the act of coming together these days is so good, isn't it? Like
Lost
any,
ignorance.
yeah.
Yeah. So I sent an email blast out. I consider a pretty open-minded, cool list of
Yeah,
people that I'm in
yeah.
contact with. I was quite shocked to get like a very harsh and cutting email
Mm,
saying, I'm offended by the title of this show as a
mm,
Christian. Um, to be honest, I didn't really understand. He wanted me to ask you something, but I couldn't, like, if I read it to you now, I read it to my husband. He was like, I don't really understand what he's trying to ask. But one of the things he said at the end was like, how do you tolerate the anti-Muslim sentiment? And then I just Googled what he wrote, tolerate anti-Muslim sentiment. And it came up with an interesting article about being Muslim and how you have to practice so much tolerance because you get so much, there's so much.
There's so much out there, isn't there? Yeah.
So much phobia and everything.
Yeah.
So I wondered about that, about your, with this show and the name of that show, like it's triggered one person on my email list already, how idiotic that they haven't even, I don't think they've even looked at you or like looked at what you're doing to understand it. But I just wondered how have you found that place in you? Because we also did discuss this after your show, because I know some people in my very close network who have suffered with these phobias and still currently suffering with them. And I'm just so
I
sad
think
about it.
And I think, it's interesting. And like we even as a team notify the police every time we do the show, just in case that title triggers any protests or something like that. And so far we haven't had to in person, certainly haven't had to deal with anything quite like that. But it's the UK in 2026, but I think, and also it's a good question for me to think about as well, because I have like team members coming in that dance. Some of my dancers are like brown and bearded or have second language English as well. So I want to make sure that they're not. And I think the sad reality is that most people I speak to have, because it's so normal now on that street, whether it's from the politicians or like on a street level kind of vitriol. It's like, oh yeah, okay. So this is like, it's most people I know, like, to be honest, in the artistic community and in the Muslim community, are just like lead with compassion and understanding, and don't get worked up about, don't get worked up about, certainly, don't get worked up about this, especially when it's like just people spouting nonsense, obviously, and a lot of the time they're the ones that don't have particularly knowledge about things. I think sometimes when it's kind of coming from positions of power, then it's a bit more like, it can like be more grating. But I think certainly and when I speak to, and from a point of like having other dancers that I feel slightly responsible for, sadly they're all used to it. They've all seen it before. It's just got to the norm. I've been to an artistic setting in a theatre in Leeds or whatever, and the question being asked is like, should we be moving to the Middle East? Like, will we feel more safe somewhere else? That becomes like a real, not people being paranoid or crazy. They're just like having those kind of conversations. But everywhere's got its up and downs. Nowhere's perfect. And just in terms of the answer, in terms of the title of the show, it's interesting because some people, so it just baffles, confuses, and Muslamic isn't an actual, got Islam and Muslim, and that's because, like, having seen the show, there's some like clips of someone who's trying to have a dig. They're like obviously very drunk, whatever. Obviously, probably almost certainly don't really have much knowledge of what they're talking about, and they're just spouting nonsense. And it kind of did the rounds. I think, I don't know whether you saw that originally.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was
it got remixed. And it did the rounds like on you. It was one of those like early YouTube memes almost. Like I don't remember when that will have been in the early 2000s maybe. And so some people, when they hear that title, they just laugh because they remember that clip. So that's where the clip came from. It's not a particularly religious show at all. And at the end of the day, it's just humanizing people, saying we're all normal, we're all good. We get to drink tea and biscuits after the show as well. So yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, whether we like it or not, it's out there. People are going to say those comments and whatnot. But so far, it's just all been like love, and it's been like really cool. It's been really interesting for people that have like maybe brought a few people that wouldn't usually come to the theatre, or people that didn't really know what they were going to go and see, but they're just like, oh, let's just have a look at this show. Or maybe people that had doubts, but then because the word spread of the show, they've just gone, oh, we're gonna take a risk anyway. So yeah, I'm glad I'm doing it. And yeah, but it's a shame because what it does mean is that a lot of people don't take a risk or don't talk about who they are or like, yeah, and then it perpetuates the problem if like yeah, no one admits to being Iranian or no one admits to being Muslim, or whatever, and they just do it in the shadows or don't put their art out there. That's like obviously could end up being a problem.
Yeah. I even thought the other day when I was just like loving. I just loved that show. You know, I was just after it. It's just had such a big impact on me. Like I said, on so many things. I was like, I wonder if there's a way that you could make it into a film,
Yeah, I'd be interested to know like
so that more
or
people could
like
see
what
it.
elements. Yeah, like I don't think
Yeah,
like lifting theatre straight for TV never
it's
seems to
tricky,
work,
isn't
but like
it?
yeah, or I wondered like the Persian character that you like doing some street interviews or like filming some bits. But even with that character, I don't want it to end up as Borat. Like it could go if it's not played, there's a fine line with that as well. But it still could be interesting to explore. And my issue is I'm less motivated by performing for the camera. Like
Yes.
that's the thing. And if it comes to like there's the idea, but then there's the slog of like doing things and like or funding applications, whatever it is. And I know that I love bringing people together, live audiences, connection, community. And when it's right, you know, no, if it's a cameraman or whatever, it just has less. Sometimes, you know, I don't know, but it could be good because it could reach lots of people. You know, there's lots of positives as well. So, but it's an interesting conversation. And yeah, I just don't. I'm much more experienced with live audience and theatre as well. So I don't know. I'd need to like, yeah, it'd be interesting to know. I don't know how much experience you've got in the film or that world.
No,
Yeah,
I haven't, but I just was like, I just love it so
yeah,
much. And, you know, for
yeah,
some people, they just wouldn't, you know, think to go
yeah,
to
yeah,
theatre. And if I could
yeah,
share a
true.
video of it, but
Yeah,
like you say, it's not as simple as just filming a live show, because
yeah,
so much gets lost in the
yeah,
finer.
yeah,
I mean, people do it with yeah, me and my husband like watching live stand up. You
okay,
know, they just
yeah,
literally
yeah, yeah,
film
yeah,
a
yeah,
live
yeah,
stand up, don't they? And then
yeah,
they just do
yeah,
like
true.
some face close ups, and it's so
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, yeah. No, it
So
does.
maybe it
Yeah,
could work. It's just no
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's really good. I love some of those live stand-up things as well, and some things do. And I have videoed. So it's now a long show, and I have got a video of it, and I didn't even watch it for a long time. I don't know. So go on watching yourself. But eventually, I did sit down and watch the video, and you know, I enjoyed it more than I thought, and an hour went very like surprisingly quickly as well. But I don't know whether I would put. Yeah, I don't know with this show. Yeah, so good. It's a good question. It's one to take away and mull over.
And talking about live performance, because that was another aspect of the show that I so loved, is that you're a very compelling and engaging performer. You've got a very amazing presence on stage, and I wondered, what's your experience of nerves, and that kind of fluttery feeling you get
Super
before you go on,
nervous.
and
Yeah,
how do
loads
you
of that.
work with
Yeah, yeah,
it?
yeah. I definitely get that fluttery feeling. Absolutely, 100% get nervous. I'm like, I have a certain level of anxiety as well. I wish I would say I'm not. I can get like literally quite. And so yeah, but luck, what's really nice about this show is I've had the opportunity of been lucky enough to like play the show lots of times as well. So had you seen it earlier on, that might have come across more, but hopefully now it doesn't. Um, hmm. um, yeah, that's a good question. I think, yeah, creating the space and letting the thing breathe as well, and especially with the comical moments and things. And I think the clowning has fed into that as well. That idea instead of like having the verse or like, and also I was playing a younger version of myself. Imagine playing a 15-year-old version of I'm really excited. Everything's like so. It's like how do you give that energy, but still allow some space in there as well. Is there anything particular? I think all the classic mantras. Like there's no harm in that backstage. Having a mantra, just telling yourself this and that. Interestingly enough, I run as well, and there's some crossover. Like they say, I think if you marathon run, they say, look, try and have 3 mantras ready just to have a word with yourself if need be. So I think there's no harm in that sometimes. Visualization as well. So if I get a chance, it depends on the setup, to be as comfortable in the space as possible. I had a friend of mine who's a very experienced performer, and he said, look, just turn that space imagine it as your living room if you possibly can, or somewhere so you might have just walked into this space for the first time. If you can shut your eyes or see or wander around that space and imagine that it's your your living
It really
room
did feel
somewhere
like
with
that. It
you.
felt like that because of
Oh,
all of
good.
the
Yeah,
sipping
yeah, yeah.
tea and
So
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and to be fair, he's Kevin who told me that. Kevin, who is, he runs Company Chameleon, and he suggested that to me really early on. Just said, look, I think he could see I was a bit anxious. He said, right, we're going to do some deep breathing, and I want you to just walk around this space, have a walk around, have a run around, and imagine it, be as comfortable as your living room, and try and sit down in the audience and just in a few different spots, just so you're like seeing it how they're going to see it. I still get nervous, but I think also, like, I set the show up quite well for myself in that the first thing that I do is this song, and it's a bit of a ritual. Golly Gandong, it's really nice, like a lullaby talking about, like, because the harvest of the wheat is so good that year, then we're going to get through the winter. And it's like, what a nice way to, so like, however nervous I am, that's the song I'm singing. So it's kind of like, I've tried to build in a nice situation, even though it's a challenging show for me as a performer, at the very least I'm going in quite a nice, gentle, relaxed start.
Yeah, that's nice actually. So it's like your first part of the act, the first part of the show is kind of grounding and
exactly.
and settling in its way.
Exactly.
My first interview last week, she said that they're a group and they do shaking before they go on stage.
Nice.
And they do shaking after as well. And she also make sure she spends a moment before she goes out and talks to everyone, just to
nice.
Because when you come off stage you're like really elevated, but I thought that was quite amazing as well, because you just came you literally like came off stage and switched, and then like came and gave me a hug and a chat with me, and I was like, wow, what a great, like, to switch from, it's just, I don't know, it's a transition, isn't it, to go from like, you've got this pumping adrenaline, and then you're just like trying to have a chat with someone, but your mind can be in a spin.
Definitely, definitely adrenalized, like you say, and it takes a while to come off done that. But I've always loved, like, breaking the fourth wall as well. Like, I just think it's really nice to take that away and offer the space as somewhere that we can all be part of. And I think, like, sharing each other's stories, that's what, like, I wanted to spark that kind of conversation. So it's just really nice. That's what I like doing about the show as well. It's just like, someone said to me once, oh, so you do that, like, meet the artist thing after the show. And I was just like, hold on, it's not really that. It's just creating a space, because we all might have short stories that are important that we want to share. And it's just like, we could do a more formal Q&A, but actually it's just so nice to, not be going home on your own in the car or whatever. Let's discuss, whether we discuss what we've just seen or create space. And I've heard some lovely stories as well. Like, people have been, like, sharing some really amazing stories. I'm just trying to think of one, like in Edinburgh. Someone was saying that she had a Scottish mum that had married her dad who's Iranian, and she'd, like, gone all out and learned how to speak Farsi. And as this, in her 50s, she wanted to move more, or 60s, she'd wanted to move more. She'd started parkour and, like, somehow gone onto a forum and was, like, paired or, like, chatting with an all-female Iranian parkour group in Tehran or whatever. And I don't know, just, like, all these stories. So, like, from having the media that are just, like, full of hate and just, like, Muslim bashing, whatever it is, to, like, opening up this space where we hang out and just share stories, it's really cool. It's really, really nice to be able to hear them. And I think it's a really interesting creative task that I don't know what you would do, but like, what do I do as an artist now that I've been up and down the country and heard these stories, people have shared these experiences, like, how could that feed into, like, a project somehow? I don't know.
I mean, there's so, from what you've created so far, there's so many ways things. I would love to hear those stories. I don't know how you even, it's nice. That's another thing actually I was thinking, is I wanted a program. Like at the end of the show, I wanted to buy pictures of Iran
I did think that. I did think that, and I wonder whether to, like, wrap, because I don't necessarily want to perform this show forever, or, like, I might say, like, no to the UK and then just go, right, if I can branch out into Europe and take some shows across the continent or something. But I think, like, whether it's a program or, like, somehow doing a book or a program or something that celebrates, like, it's coming up to 50 shows, and, like, trying to get some of those stories down. So that might be enough. It was just so like
cool. And like, there was some lovely stories you told in the show about the marathon and things like that. Like, I just thought I'd love to have that written down and pictures. It's such a beautiful work that you made.
Thank you. Thanks.
And
I know it's
celebrated in so many ways.
Yeah, and other plays you go out and they sell the transcript on the way out. The thing is, it's not because there's so many different
there's not a
elements.
script
It
as
wouldn't
such.
stand up. The script
Yeah.
wouldn't be like a book in of itself. So, but yeah, I've had a similar thought to yourself, and I think it would be cool to produce something like that. It's gonna inevitably be more work than I think, but yeah, like why not? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've just got a few minutes left before we wrap up. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share? Or I know you're about to go on tour. You could also just mention a bit about what you've got coming up.
Let me grab a flyer and I can just briefly mention the. But thank you so much for having me. But yeah, here's for anyone watching. There's the artwork and the list of dates. We are going to. So let's go to the Midlands, Smethwick, Wolverhampton, Nottingham, Exeter, Birmingham, London at Camden People's Theatre from the end of April to the beginning of May. The Gulbenkian in Canterbury. It's going to Bradford.
That's one I'll be at.
Great, yeah, really nice space actually.
Yeah.
I've met with the team.
Beatboxer there.
Yeah, oh really?
You know Shlomo.
Yes,
Yeah.
Really interesting. Which show did you see? Did you Breathe or the young people?
Their new show that is all about being diverse and being they.
Yeah.
So I have to apologise because I just called him, which I also did when I saw him, because when I first met him 10 years ago, he was a he, now he's a they, and I was so embarrassed. I wanted the ground to swallow me up because the whole show was about acceptance, and then I just went and called him him, and I was like,
I'm sure they're very understanding. I went to see a show they did, Breathe, and I found it because suddenly halfway through the show it turns out they're an Iraqi Jew, and I just thought, wow, like that's just like, so for me, my ears really pricked up. Like we're actually talking about Iraqi culture and things now, and it was just it was really good. Yes. But yeah, that's those list of dates.
I'll make sure I pop a link to that for everyone as well. So I'll pop the website and the link so everyone can see.
But I'm really happy to be following your journey, and I know you're up to lots of good things as well. I don't know.
Thank you, Bobak.
So thanks for having me.
Great, thanks so much for coming, and wishing you all the best for your tour. And anyone who's not seen the show, or if anyone who's seen it, I'm definitely going to go and see it again, and I'm telling all my friends. So do go and see it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today. As I said, I really recommend going to see Bobak's show. You can find out more at bobakchampion.co.uk, or he's on social media at Bobak Champion. I will make sure there's links in the show notes. And if you'd like to carry on listening to this podcast series, the best thing you can do is sign up to my email list on my website, lauralamb.com, and Lamb is spelled love, art, music, nirvana.com, and I'm on social media at Laura Lamb. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.